Hello everyone. So today I'm going to look at how you build a Twitter bot in serverless that understands sentiment. So there's lots of tutorials out there already that build Twitter bots in one way or another, but the difference is here we're going to be using AWS Comprehend to understand if the tweets are positive or negative before we make a response. So you can test it out. If you send a nice tweet to me at JBESW, my Twitter bot will respond with a like within around 5 minutes. If you send something that's not nice, it won't respond at all. I might though. So Twitter bots are a good example for serverless because of the way that the code runs. So you have two different mechanisms running with bots. One is a mechanism called polling. This is where we check periodically every 5 minutes, 10 minutes, every hour, whatever the time interval is, to see if there's new content for us to do something with. The second mechanism uses webhooks. This is where Twitter itself, when information comes in, will call a URL that we provide so that we can take action when new content arrives. In general, you want to be able to use webhooks because it's more efficient. You're not being called when nothing's happening, and also you can react in real time when something does happen. Polling has the problem that for the interval n seconds, on average for a randomly distributed number of tweets, the tweeter will be waiting n divided by 2 seconds. So in other words, that basically if someone sends a tweet and you're polling every minute, on average you're going to respond in about 30 seconds. Now the reason we're not using webhooks in this example is because of the way that Twitter has their developer plans. So that in the free tier you only have access to the polling mechanism. You have to pay for the service to be able to use webhooks. So obviously we're just going to use the free example here. So let's get started. We're going to clone my code here that just sets up the framework for what we're going to do. So just go to a command prompt, make a directory, and then from there just git clone this URL. You should then see that you have another directory there, and those are the files that we've downloaded from Git. So to install, just run npm install. This shouldn't take more than a couple of seconds to grab all the packages that are needed. Okay, the next job is just to fire up your favorite IDE to take a look at the files we have. There are 3 steps for making our Twitter bot work. The first is using Twitter's API. Fortunately, there's an npm package for that, so all the heavy lifting is done for us, and I'll show you that next. The second step is to detect the sentiment of the tweet, and the third step is to schedule the Lambda, and we're going to be using serverless framework, and that makes it very easy. First of all, let's just take a look at the code we've downloaded. So handler.js, this is the standard boilerplate handler code that we see in the Lambda function. Really the only thing we've added here is a reference to our code, and we're using the asynchronous ES6 syntax to make it wait while we go and fetch the tweets. In like tweets, there's some sections you'll need to fill out yourself. So first of all, you need to go to the Twitter developer page and sign up for the keys and secrets. You'll need to enter these here. Obviously, I'm not showing those in the video, but they look like long strings of numbers and text. The parameters we're searching against the Twitter will appear here. Now, I'm just going to set this up so that it listens to my handle in English. It'll only return the most recent 10 tweets. The date range filter is only available on paid plans, so we're not able to search by date. Here, when we go through these tweets, we'll be running this Twitter bot every 5 minutes, so you should set this to whatever the frequency is of your Twitter bot. And then there's the positivity threshold, which we'll go to in a minute. Now, all this function does is it goes and fetches the most recent list of tweets, checks each one to see if it's within the time range that is within the last 5 minutes in this case, and then checks to see if the tweet itself is positive, and if it is, then it likes the tweet. Next in the list of files we have this sentiment file, and this is really doing the hard work in terms of talking to AWS Comprehend. We're wrapping the call inside a promise to keep it within this new ES6 syntax, but the main piece to look at is right here. We call Comprehend to detect sentiment. This will return a very simple payload that gives us a series of scores that indicate if the tweets are positive or negative. All we're going to do is look to see if the positive sentiment score is above our positivity threshold, and if it is, then we'll like the tweet. You could do something more complicated here. Now, it's worth noticing that with sentiment analysis, it tends to work better for larger amounts of text. So if you're looking at tweets, it can be a little hit or miss. Also, these bots, they're not really aware if someone's being sarcastic or if it's very short, whether they're being serious or not. So in a production use case, you might want to set this score to be much higher than 0.6, like 0.8 or 0.9. Also, you might change the functionality so that if something's strongly negative, you could automatically forward it on to a human for review. So the first step for you now is just to put in your credentials up here, add in your handle, set the Twitter interval that you want to use, and in case you want to change that, you can change that too. This will automatically configure Lambda to call the function every 5 minutes. It's really as simple as it looks. The reason we didn't set this to 1 minute is not a limitation of Lambda. Lambda can easily call the function every minute. It's on the Twitter side where we might run up against limitations in terms of our API limits on a free paid plan. So we're going to keep this at 5 minutes for this example. Again, in a production use case, I would recommend that you use the webhook approach instead. Setting the Lambda interval to 5 minutes means the function will be called about 8,600 times a month, which sounds like a lot, but really in Lambda that's nothing at all. So once you've got your code ready and you've put in all those credentials, just do an SLS deploy. This takes a couple of minutes, but will set up all the roles and the packages and everything else that needed to make it work. Once this is done, I'll join you in the AWS console. Once you've deployed this code using SLS deploy, this will run every 5 minutes, really until you tell it to stop. The key thing to do is to monitor it in CloudWatch. Inside CloudWatch, in the region in which you deployed, you'll see that there's a log group that appears after a while with the name of the package or the service that you used. When you have a Lambda that runs like a cron job, one of the important things is to make sure that you expire your log events, otherwise the logs will just grow and grow forever. This may not be a problem if you don't mind paying for them, but I would recommend for something like this, just changing it to something more sensible, like 5 days or a week. Inside the log file, this has been running for a few days. If we open up one of those, you can see every time that it's been run, roughly every 5 minutes, it spit out logs about what has been found. If I do a search for liking, you'll see this is an example of when it liked a tweet. Now, we didn't put very much error handling in that code, but we did catch anything that goes wrong when we like the tweet. The most common problem is that you've already liked the tweet somewhere else, so the tweet like automation might fail. But otherwise, you should find it just works all by itself. This is a really simple example, but you can see that you could extend it to all sorts of use cases for a commercial application. The most important thing is to stay within Twitter's guidelines. If you do anything that's considered to be heavy automation, retweeting, automatic following, you can get into trouble. You don't want to put your Twitter account at risk. So definitely make sure you read the terms and conditions and understand what you are and you're not allowed to do. Other than that, it's really that simple. So it's extremely easy to use AWS Comprehend to bring a little bit of basic AI into understanding the tweets. The Twitter package through NPM does all the integration work for you, and really we've written probably 50 or 60 lines of code here that do anything, and that's all you need to be able to create your very own Twitter bot. And if you're running in Lambda's free tier, this won't cost you anything to run. That's it for now. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to my channel.